What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of College Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, number one Knicks fan in the world. Before we get into the opening night of college basketball, I do want to say that I want to do a Q&A video very soon. I think it's important to communicate with the basketball community, my supporters, that there are things that are bigger than basketball. And I want you guys to be able to be comfortable asking or coming to me with questions that don't pertain basketball. You know what I mean? So I want to do a Q&A that's non-basketball related. Ask me anything from life stuff, advice, sports media career questions, podcasting, YouTube. You like a girl at school, anything that you have a question about and that you think I can answer for you. Drop it in the comments, and in the next couple of days, I'll, glance through it, pick some of the best questions and answer them to the best of my ability. But again, I just want to establish and reiterate that there are things bigger than basketball. And for my supporters who may not, love basketball as much as I do, or it's not maybe the biggest priority, I do want you guys to still be able to come to me with different questions and concerns that may not be basketball related. Now, as far as college basketball's opening night last night, boy, it was a beauty. I've been excited for the coming weeks for college basketball. I love college basketball, from the prospects to just the overall game, the teams. It's been a big part of my life, so I'm glad to have it back after the bounce, the bounce back year with COVID and all of that stuff going on. We got a clean slate, some good upperclassmen, some good teams, some good freshmen, some good draft prospects, the whole nine. And I started my day yesterday with college basketball with Villanova. That was the first team I watched, and I think that was a great start to my college basketball opening night. Villanova came out sharp, and they came out with a typical Villanova recipe, right? They're led by a veteran point guard, Colin Gillespie, and then they also have a wing who just went crazy. 27 points for Justin Moore, 7 threes. And that's the recipe, right? When Villanova has these great teams, they have these veteran point guards, and then they have a wing that's an upperclassman that looks to be a NBA prospect that can probably, go to 25 of the 30 NBA teams that'll be drafted and have an impact in some way, shape, or form, whether it's been Sadiq Bey, Josh Hart, and that's when I'm looking at Justin Moore. Not to say he'll be anywhere near those guys or whatever, but a guy that's going to be able to impact this current Villanova team and then also have some translatable things, as far as an NBA prospect. And I think this team is going to be one of those teams that has another opportunity to go to the Final Four and ultimately compete for a national championship. That is Villanova's brand of basketball. They got these young guys that come in and learn from upperclassmen, and then in those next couple years, those guys become the upperclassmen, and the cycle just continues and continues and continues. And every once in a while, they may have a freshman that's a standout and can leave early or whatever, but that seems to be the Villanova recipe, and it's paying off once again. I think they had a 40-point win, and again, Justin Moore was the standout there. Another game was Ohio State. Ohio State had a bumpy matchup against Akron. Akron, I thought for a second was going to pull that game out and get the win, but E.J. Liddell led that Ohio State team to ultimately get that 1-point victory. Shaky start for Ohio State, but it was a good win because I think it's important for those Big Ten teams or these major power conferences to start off on the right foot. You want to win these non-conference games because conference time is going to be a supreme battle. And that was one of the reasons why I was a little disappointed in Nebraska. You guys know I'm very high on Bryce McGowan's, the freshman guard. He had 25 and 6. Tough shooting night, but was still able to get points on the board. But they ultimately lost by 1 point to Western Illinois. And I do want to say, today's episode is going to be a little bit of a scatterbrain because there's so much that happened last night. College basketball is so jam-packed. There's so many guys playing, so many teams, so many different things to talk about that it will be a little scatterbrain. So at any point you need to pause, write something down, go check it out, whatever. Feel free to do that because it will be a little bit all over the place just because it was open tonight. Future videos will be a little bit more straight to the point. And just like NBA Weekly, where standout things that I personally want to talk about or any topics that you guys want me to dial in on, that'll be the normal theme, But tonight or today's episode is just trying to cover the opening night as a whole. So yeah, Nebraska, disappointing loss. But again, I like some things that I saw from Bryce McGowan's, the aggressiveness to get up those shots and establish yourself early as one of their go-to guys. And also my little bro, Lonzo Verge, grew up in my area. He had a really nice game as an upperclassman lead guard for them. So hopefully they can bounce back and get their groove before they have to enter conference play in that gritty Big Ten. But definitely like what I saw from Bryce McGowan's. PBJ, Patrick Baldwin Jr., one of the top prospects, freshman prospects in this upcoming NBA draft. The toughest thing about Patrick Baldwin Jr., he had a great first game, 21-10. They won, but it's going to be very hard to watch him and also just to keep up. Like, Milwaukee was a very tough game to find, not even to just watch, but to just find and keep up with. You know what I mean? Like during the night, when everybody was playing, it was very tough to find them, and that's going to be a tough thing to keep up with him because they're not going to probably have the national, games on ESPN. The conference at the end, I don't think they have like a worldwide syndicated, broadcast or channel where you'll be able to check them out, like the Big Ten Network or anything like that. But he did have a great solid game. 21-10. Mix it up a bit, and that's what we want to see. We want to see him grow or become this go-to guy and stand out in that way and really dominate that conference with his team and put them on his back and win some games. And hopefully they can make it to the tournament, man. Try to make some noise, win their conference, go in the tournament, and if he can lead them, that would be a good thing or some good momentum to take him into June come draft time, even though there's plenty of basketball left to play. Some other guys that I just want to show love to, maybe not even draft prospects or anything, but just guys that had really good games. I got to start with KJ Williams out of Murray State, 32 points, shot the three ball really well. I saw that he shot 40% from them last year, so he may be a guy that we have to watch out for. And Murray State is always a team come tournament time that always has a nice solid group of guys that can compete, maybe upset some guys, and are always in position to make a run. So I do want to say, watch out for Murray State, watch out for KJ Williams. That could be a team, like I said, that come March may not be playing on a national, national stage game by game, but when it comes to bracket time and March Madness, they could be a team that could somewhat make some noise, upset somebody. So we'll be watching out for them. JD Node for Arkansas, 30 points. They're going to be a team that's going to get up and down. Once again, they had a good team last year. It looks like they're primed to have another bounce back year the same way. Got to give some love to Will Richardson from Oregon. I saw that they had a nice win. He had like 20 points or whatnot. My left hand, 6'5" point guard, upperclassman. I think he's going to be a guy that people want to have in their draft boards, late first round, second round, that teams are going to really, really like. UCLA played late, so I didn't get to see their game until this morning. It was a good game for them, very dominant, but it was some lows for Peyton Watson. Again, we have so much basketball left to play, so it's nothing to really dial in or overreact to. But my boy Peyton Watson struggled a bit, 0 for 5 from 3. I think 2-11 from the field, a few turnovers, but I did see some steals, a block. And overall, he seemed under control. He didn't let the missed shots or anything really, fluster him or get him out of his game too much, or but I definitely want to see him bounce back. But they look like they're going to be the real deal. I think UCLA is a very deep team. Peyton Watson didn't even start. We know they brought back Johnny Juzang, and they have a lot of upperclassmen who can score the ball, shoot the ball, and defensively they really, really get at you. So UCLA is another team that I'm looking at, and I'm like, man, already we talked about Villanova, talked about UCLA, Murray State is, like a little dark horse team, but there's a lot of competitiveness that we're going to see throughout the NCAA this year. Maryland, I liked what I saw from Maryland with Dante Scott, Fats Russell, a transfer from Rhode Island. Got a lot of love for Fats. Even Ian Martinez, they had a solid win, so shout out to them. Texas had a real dominant win. They got about 4 or 5 guys that were in double figures. They're real big. Trey Mitchell is a transfer who came off the bench. Texas is another team. And I like Texas because they're well balanced. They got a few guys who can score. They got a lot of size. Texas is always known for having size, so I'm definitely interested to see how they work themselves through their conference play. Caleb Love, UNC, he looked like a totally different player. Caleb Love, I think is going to have a nice bounce back season for the Tar Heels. He looks comfortable, and he looks like he's going to lead the charge for them. He had a very impressive game. I love what I saw, and I expected that from Caleb Love, but he looked legitimately like a different player for UNC, and I think he's going to have a breakout year in that ACC. But that was a good start and good win for UNC. What else did we have? Jabari Smith, one of my freshman guys that I'm high on with Auburn. He had a solid performance, 8 points, some catch and shoot threes. Seen him, go on a post, turn around jumper, had some steals, block. He might not be a guy to have big crazy performance, 30 and 10, 30 and 15, anything like that because of the way Auburn plays. But if you watch, and I watched the game, he was very impactful, very under control, and made sure he fit in with the flow of the game and the flow of the team. I like that front court with him and Kessler. Alan Flanagan didn't play last night. Can't wait to see when he does come back to the lineup. They were really good. And the little guard, forget his name, he was really, really hooping. He had some range. So when Flanagan does return back, Auburn could be another team to get up in the mix. Marcus Sasser for Houston, he was incredible. Houston was another team that almost let a game slip away from them on opening night, but Marcus Sasser came through. He was impressive as well. Probably one of my favorite players that I saw last night. As far as the returning guys or up and class non-freshman lottery pick draft guys, he was just really smooth. Got a ball on the string. The way he moves with the ball, the crossovers. He had a bag for sure. And I think he's going to be a player that if Houston continues this and they make the tournament again, Marcus Sasser is a guy that I could see being a big time player when the March Madness comes. He could get you 30 in any round easily with his shot creation, ball on the string, and I think he's going to be a name that could explode then as just not even just draft, but like as a fan favorite in college basketball in general. So I really like what I saw from him. Illinois had a very big win. Shout out to my home state, Illinois. I think they were ranked 11th. They had a very big win considering the fact that they didn't have 3 of their starters. Kofi was out. Cubello was out and Frazier was out, but they still had a solid win. And I think that was very impressive. That shows that they have some depth and that they may be a little bit better this year than they were last year. Though last year they had more names, Adam Miller, obviously, Ayo was there, whatnot. But I think they may be even better with less prominent names because they may have even more depth. Memphis, Jalen Duran, Imani Bates. They showed me some very, very good things. I have questions for both players. I have questions for every player in the nation. We're one game into the season, so my questions are going to be there for a while until we see, progress throughout the season. But early on, these dudes really looked well. I like what I saw from Jalen Duran. I know he's one of the most physical, gifted people, in college basketball right now. Rebounded the ball well, obviously got his lobs, but he has some monster blocks, and that's what I want to see from him on a consistent basis. I want to see that rim protection that I know he's capable of. I want to see him move around a little bit. He seems like he should be a lot faster and quicker than what he is. Hopefully we'll start to see that. And then Imani Bates. Imani Bates really looked good as far as dishing the ball off, decision making, not over forcing anything. We've seen that for so long for Imani Bates, so I'm starting to want to see other layers to his game because that's what the next level is about, which I know is what he's ultimately trying to reach. And it's about being able to have value in different roles. You may go to a team that doesn't need you to be the best or need you to be their number one option. So how will you be valuable if you go to a Houston Rockets who are like, hey, Imani, we have Jalen Green, we have Christian Wood. How are you going to be valuable now? And I think I saw a step in the right direction for him. He has some incredible playmaking plays on display. He got some shots that were still kind of forced, but it wasn't overly forced. He wasn't out there gunning. Still took some tough shots. And I want to see if he can continue to be efficient while cutting down on some of those crazy shots and working on a shot selection while continuing to have those plays where he's creating for others, and because he's such a dynamic offensive player that he's going to command a lot of attention, and I love to see him make the right play, right timely plays as well, and I can't wait to see that progress throughout the course of the season. Last few things, Virginia did get upset. Not really used to that from a Tony Bennett team. Opening night, they were only ranked 25th, but still, that's just not Virginia-like to lose that early in the season. What else do we have? Edine from Wichita State. I can't pronounce his last name. Hopefully, I've heard 5 different people pronounce it 5 different ways. But the shot that he hit was ridiculous. And he's been a guy that every time I talk about college basketball, a lot of people like him. I think he's going to be a prominent name in the college basketball atmosphere or sphere, to say the least. People love watching him, and I see why. That shot was crazy. He had a very good year last year, but it looks like he's going to go to a higher level if he's continuing to take shots like that. Damian Lillard-esque logo game-winning shots. That was very, very impressive. Now, to the main thing that we're all here to talk about, the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Chet Holmgren and Gonzaga, phenomenal win. There were certain times it was a bit close that I was like, whoa, Gonzaga, don't tell me y'all gonna play around. But they got to their rhythm and started to pull away eventually. But Chet, 14 points, 13 rebounds, 7 blocks, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, I believe. Full display of everything in his arsenal. You know what I mean? He blocked shots, took jump shots, dunks, ran the floor, outlet the ball, played in, played out, took guys off the dribble from the perimeter, got to the free throw line. That's everything that you want to see. And that's why last night was one of the best nights in a very long time, because we got some of those top prospects, and they played to their expectations or even beyond to a certain extent. And we had some upperclassmen, some good team. Like, it was very, very, very good all around last night. And for Chet to deliver was a sight to see. Phenomenal. That number 1 pick conversation when it comes time, because we do have so much college basketball to play. But when we get there, if we continue to see these guys play this way, it's going to be tough. Oh, a guy that I didn't mention, Kennedy Chandler, Tennessee. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm loving what I'm seeing. He's looking like he's going to separate and become the top point guard in this class. Like I said before, Mike Conley vibes to the highest degree. Isn't going to do anything bad. It's all about this season showing us what he's elite at and then what he's above average at. But he's not going to do anything bad. Great tempo, great control over the game, great feel for the game, finding an open man, and can score the basketball at 3 different levels. He can go inside, lay the ball up, very crafty around the rim, shooting behind the screen. Very, very, very skilled point guard, and I can't wait to see him progress over the season while controlling the reins of that Tennessee team. But yeah, Chet Holmgren, phenomenal, and I want to see Gonzaga continue to do that. I want Chet to hone in on being a center. Doesn't mean he has to play on the block. This is 2022 that we're in. The game is different. It doesn't have to play like Patrick Ewing when I'm saying as a center. But what I want is for him to find comfort with being down there for during different stretches during the game. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can let him play on the perimeter and take other bigs off the dribble, but I do want him to feel comfortable exposing mismatches when he does have a smaller guy on him, going down that 2 rim protect, because that's where his value is going to be at an all-time high, whether we're just talking college basketball or even beyond. He's going to be valuable by doing so many different things, and I think Gonzaga putting him at the center and allowing him to be himself while playing center is ultimately the key to unlock his potential to the fullest level, and it could be a blueprint for any NBA team that's looking to draft him. The main events in Madison Square Garden is always on and popping when anything is surrounding or involved with Madison Square Garden. Kansas versus Michigan State. Phenomenal. Y'all know I love me some Max Christie. He played for Michigan State. I like some things I saw from him. Early shot making. I think he had like 9 points, and that's going to come from him getting out of his shell a little bit with that Michigan State offense. Michigan State isn't as talented as they've been in previous years, so Max Christie isn't going to be able to sit around and wait for others to create for him. And I think that's what I saw at different times last night throughout that game. They did play one of the top teams in the nation, a very talented, upper-class, veteran-led Kansas team. But he's going to have to, break out of his mold and break out of his shell and start to go get the basketball and create for himself, or at least attempt to, because it's going to be pretty evident that Max Christie is a guy that you don't leave. He made some shots, and then Kansas obviously communicated and said, hey, we can't leave that kid. And if he just sits and waits for somebody to create for him, he can then be taken out of a game during different stretches of the game. But on the flip side, Abaji, oh my gosh, 29 points out the gate for Kansas. I've been waiting for him to leave Kansas and enter the draft for the last few years. Like, no BS. I've thought this dude was going to be gone from Kansas years ago. But I'm glad he's back, and I'm glad to see that he's improved and benefited from coming back. He looks way more comfortable, way more confident with the ball in his hands, and just overall as their guy. Even with a guy like Remy Martin transferring into the Kansas program, he still solidified himself as their guy, and he looked real smooth. Nothing really Michigan could do to dictate him in his game. He got to every spot he wanted to get to. He wanted to get to the rim, boom. He wanted to get threes, got to the free throw line. He even had some plays in transition that impressed me. He is seriously going to be a guy that can be a Chris Duarte, where he could go back-end lottery, mid-first round, and then go to a team and contribute right away as an upperclassman. I love his game. Super smooth, but it's polished at this point of his Kansas career. So that was a real good game to watch. And I obviously can't wait to watch Kansas at its fullest when Jalen Wilson does return from his suspension. And then the finale, Duke and Kentucky. Oh my gosh, what a way to wrap up my college basketball night. Now, there were other games after that were later. There were West Coast games, but like I said, I fell asleep at way before those games were even close to being finished. So this was my finale. Man. Paulo Banchero, Trevor Keels. Guys, this is what college basketball is all about, right? We're in the Mecca, so to speak, Madison Square Garden. We got Kentucky versus Duke, 5-star here, 5-star there, and these guys actually in center stage in their first collegiate games elevate their games and put it on full display. That was the most exciting college basketball opening game since I can remember. You know what I mean? They've been doing this little classic thing for years now, and this is probably one of the best nights that I can remember. I'm talking about even with Wiggins and Jabari. Like last night was immaculate. Paulo, let's not even get into Paulo yet. That's a whole 25-minute video in itself. Trevor Keels, I'll be honest. Trevor Keels is a guy that I had a lot of questions. Like I said, I have a lot of questions on all of the players in the NCAA right now. But he was definitely a guy that I was waiting to make assessments on until I saw him collegiately, because I wanted to see if those high school things I saw could translate. High school and college is a big difference. It's a big difference as far as competition, the way you can play, the way it operates. So I was waiting to see, and he really impressed me. Like, the scoring is there, but outside of the scoring, just the production and box score numbers from just watching, just eye tests. First of all, he has an NBA-ready body already out of the gate. Super strong, super fluid, got to everywhere he wanted to get to on the court. Had jump shots, got to the lane, finished with contact, got to the free throw line, and then you could see him opening up his game little by little throughout the whole entirety. Like, he had some jump shots, then he got to the rim, and it just started to open up more. Then he was making passes out of the pick and roll. Paulo went out because he had some cramping going on. Didn't stop Trevor Keels. He kept it. It was a good sight to see. So Trevor Keels is now a guy that I got to make sure I continue to watch, because I want to see if he can continue to add on to those things throughout the course of the season, because that was very, very impressive. Paulo basically came out and said this is not going to be a one-man race for the NBA draft come June. Like I said, it's early. I get it. There's plenty of college basketball left. But boy, did he come out and make a statement. He gave it to Kentucky every way he had. I think the only thing he didn't do was make a three. If I'm not mistaken, Paulo missed all 3 threes that he took, but he gave them work on a block. He had a putback dunk. He had turnaround fades. He had jab step mid-range shots. He got it off the board, off the glass, and pushed it himself. He looked polished, NBA ready today. He looks like he can play in the NBA right now. Right now, he looks like he can compete in the NBA. Grown man body, 6'10", they say 250, strong and athletic as hell. I think he is one of the most well-rounded freshman forwards that we've seen in a long time. Reminds me of Blake Griffin that was at Oklahoma. And that Blake Griffin was, a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken. He's a modern Blake Griffin. I can't take that out of my mind when I see him play. He just does everything so well and so fluid at that size. I'm really loving his game and can't wait to see him play more. And that Duke team looks very, very well because they have a little bit of everything. They have some freshman guys who are really, really good. They have some size. They have some shooting. They have some upperclassmen. Point guard play from Jeremy Roach. Wendell Moore got in the mix. They have a lot going on in Duke. So I can't wait to see how it's going to look as the season progresses as far as the top dogs. Kentucky looked very young. You know, Ty Washington, he had a tough night. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in. What's he do? He'll have plenty of big games to make up for it down the line. So I'm not worried about that at all. But there was certain times where, like, even with his misses, it was just like they had some careless turnovers. Guys looking like they're in it. Then 1 minute they're not in it. A lot of different defensive miscommunication cues. This is a John Calipari type start to the year where he has a bunch of young guys who obviously have to learn so much over the years. They do have a few veterans. They do have some returning guys that will make it a little bit more easier, but they're always going to be led by younger guys. Their best players are always incoming freshmen, and there's so much that John Calipari has to teach them along the way. So I think this Kentucky team is going to be fine. Great first game. They had plenty of fight. They never let Duke truly run away. They always fought to the end, and that was important. But I do think they're going to be better as the season progresses, how usually Kentucky teams are, because they're so young. Damian Collins, I want to see more from him. And then Ty Washington, like I said, I expect for him to bounce back eventually. But overall, like I said, the Chet and Paulo, for them to come out and play the way that they play, even Patrick Baldwin Jr., that was super, super dope. And got me even more excited. Like, I cannot wait till I can see these guys play again. I think Saturday some of these guys play. But yeah, that was opening night for me. That's how I watched it. There were some other guys I seen, like Benedict Mathurin with Arizona, kind of struggled a bit. But overall, that's how I took in the opening night of college basketball. Like I said, I know it's a little bit of a scatterbrain, a lot of stuff everywhere, because that's just how it was on opening night. It was so much for me to keep up with. I was all over the place watching games on my laptop, on my phone, on my iPad, all over. I woke up this morning, went back and rewatched certain things that I didn't get a chance to see, like Auburn. So it won't always be like this. We will get a little bit more organized and talk about certain straightforward topics. But I am glad that a lot of you guys are excited about college basketball this year. And I love the feedback that you guys have been giving me, the encouragement to continue to make this type of content, because it is very scarce in the YouTube community. It's usually just NBA talk and NBA topics and NBA conversations, but college basketball is important, not just from the draft standpoint, but because these are great basketball players. You know what I mean? Like, these guys can hoop. These are good programs, and it's just good to watch good basketball. Like I said, Villanova was a great start because they play very good basketball. Draft aside, that's a very good basketball team. Jay Wright is one of my favorite coaches. Has been one of my favorite coaches since they had Randy Foye, Kyle Lowry, Allen Ray. Y'all don't want to get me started and going back in the day. But appreciate you guys as always. This is College Basketball Weekly. I am your host, Pee Wee the Plug. Until next time, I am out. Peace.